Good morning, everybody. I appreciate everybody being here this morning. At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk Barger, if you will, please call the roll.
Master Combs?
Here.
Master Barger?
Here.
Master Tudor?
Here.
Master Botkin?
Present.
Judge Taylor?
Here. At this time, I'd like to invite Brother Dr. Darren Cobb up from Red House Baptist Church to lead us in word of prayer. I appreciate you being here today.
All right, that's pretty good. Father, we just thank you that we're mindful as we come into this courthouse. That God, we're mindful that you're the one who establishes law, both civic, religious, Lord, and civil. And we just pray, God, that you would superintend the hearts, the minds, and the decisions made by these that you've placed in authority over us in Madison County. God, we just pray you give them strength. We pray, God, to give them courage to always do what's right. And God, we pray that you remind us that we're all under your authority. So God, bless us. We pray for prosperity and for peace. And God, we just pray that, God, you would bless this time together, and you'd bless these officials, and that, God, you'd bless Madison County. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Sheriff, if you will, lead us in the pledge.
Would please rise, pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it a lot.
I got it.
That's all over. Thank you.
Same thing we had on Dropbox.
Should be, yeah. It hasn't been changed since you and I met last week. Okay. All right, guys, next on the agenda is the approval of our meetings minutes from our previous meeting.
Judge, I have, somebody else speak? No, go ahead. I got one, we need to correct one on the first reading on 1911. It's recorded that all the masters voted yes. I voted no, and John Tudor voted no.
On ordinance 1911?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It says we all voted yes, but I didn't vote yes. I voted
Right,
no.
you are correct. Okay. So is that a motion to approve, correcting that one change?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Second.
Do I have a second? Second? Any further discussion, guys? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Botkin?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Treasurer's report will be at the next meeting. First order of business today on our agenda is the appointment to the Madison County Utilities Board. It's my recommendation to the Fiscal Court to reappoint Jim Carr to the Madison County Utilities Board as a board member. This term would expire on July 30th of 2023.
Make that motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any more discussion?
Jim's done an awful good job to keep the finances in order out
He does.
the utility board the last several years.
He's our chairman.
I
Does a
appreciate
great
the
job.
work he does out
Thanks, John. Call the roll, please.
Master Botkin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next is Personnel Animal Shelter Administrative Assistant. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Alrighty. So we are bringing forward Katie Banks, if she will go ahead and stand up. The interview committee consisted of Melissa Settle from the Road Department, Leanne Keats from Planning, and then Colleen Cheney. And so we want to recommend Katie for the Administrative Assistant 1 position at $13 an hour starting on September 4th, 2019.
Could we get a job description of that?
Yeah, of
Please.
course. So for the animal shelter, they would pretty much, this position would be manning the front, coordinating any type of, if we were to move forward with any events, kind of coordinating those, as well as keeping up with the dog tags and, what are they called? The spay and neuter program, that kind of stuff.
Personnel?
No, they're not over anybody. So they wouldn't be supervising. This would be like the front desk position.
Okay, well, I mean,
Yeah, they'd still, this position would still answer back here right now to our office.
Yes.
okay, well, you know, before we just didn't have it, we had 2 or 3 more with it.
Mhm.
And I'm not really sure when someone calls, you know,
I'd like to know who to send them to, so you answered my question.
Yep. All right, any other questions?
No, not going on Larry's comment, we still would like to be good if we had a copy of that job
Yeah,
description.
of course. You can send that to me.
Why don't we send them all job descriptions? I mean, we have all that, so that way the masters have a folder or a binder or whatever of all job descriptions, so they know.
Yep.
I think we get this question quite a bit whenever we're hiring, so
Okay.
that way that they'll have that in their records.
Well, it's not that I question it, I just like to be a little more informed about it when somebody asks me.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
yeah.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with questions.
Nope.
It's good. So if we affirm the recommendation to hire Caitlin Banks as our administrative assistant 1 at the animal shelter, starting at $13 an hour, start date September 4th, 2019. I need a motion and a second, please.
Make that motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Pastor Combs?
Yes.
Master Berger? Yes. Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Next is personnel. This is a code enforcement officer position. Bert, good morning,
Good
man.
morning. As you all know, we've been looking for a code enforcement officer for a little bit now. This is a new position. We've wrote a new job description. We'll get, Rachel will send that over to you too. I'll introduce you all to Lauren Hobson. We had an interview committee of myself, Glenna Baker, and Angel Powell, and we interviewed 4 people. And based on that, it would be my recommendation that we hire Lauren Hobson for the code enforcement officer position, $13 an hour and a start date of 8/28.
Bert, will you kind of explain this position just a little bit, just to make sure that the community members and the fiscal court
We have lots of ordinances
understand?
on the books, whether they're property maintenance ordinances, business license ordinances, tax ordinances, and sometimes those things require enforcement. Sometimes you send a person a letter and they don't respond to it, so you need to take the next step. Sometimes somebody, or you can sit down, you don't have to stand up the whole time. Sometimes you send somebody a letter, tell them they need to get a business license, and they don't. Or they need to pay their taxes, and they don't. So this person this is gonna be the next step. This is gonna be the investigative arm. This is gonna be the person that files charges with the county attorney, maybe goes to court to testify against these people. Just kind of putting a little more teeth in the
Speed up the
enforcement of it.
process.
And expanding that a little bit too. I mean, there's a lot of areas as far as business license and taxation that are just laying out there that nobody's following up on. I think this position will probably pay for itself in the revenue that they'll be able to generate and bring in just from taking that next step. And I think it'll improve the efficiency of the process. I know we all kind of worry about the property maintenance ordinance and how it's enforced and get frustrated with how long it takes. Hopefully this will increase that efficiency a little bit because we have another person that's all they're doing. Right now it's Marty and Patty, and they'll send the letter and then Marty's got to go do 6 building inspections that day, and stuff sometimes falls through the crack. So this person will be solely responsible for that and for helping Angel with the business licenses to free her up to work on some of the tax stuff. And business license is $10. The money that we generate from that is from the taxation once you get the business license. So that'll free Angel up to maybe do a little more auditing of some of these people. Right now they send her a check, she takes it and takes it for what it's worth, instead of maybe going in, picking, just randomly picking some people to audit and making sure they're doing the right thing. So
Right.
I think it'll be a good thing.
Bert, quite often I get nuisance calls on property that's vacant. Abandoned, and it's just run down, and I'll turn it into your office, and it seems like nothing really gets done. I know you're all busy over there. We turn it into sometimes the county attorney, and I followed up on that. We need somebody to go out and check and make sure these properties are straightened
That's
up
right.
and cleaned up.
That's right. And not to get ahead of ourselves, but we're gonna talk about the property maintenance code here in a little bit. We're gonna try to update it and get some of that language cleaned up, and hopefully all that, in addition to this hire, will help speed that process up a little bit.
Thanks, Bert. If y'all affirm Bert's recommendation to hire Lauren Hobson as our code enforcement officer, be a full-time position in the planning and codes office, starting at $13 an hour, and the start date is August the 28th, 2019. I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
You should be working out of your office. bro.
Yes.
Thank you.
I hope she's working out of her car a lot. County car a lot, yeah.
Well, I got enough to keep you busy for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Call the roll, please.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Tudor,
Yes?
Master Pipkin.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, guys. Next, personnel is EMA CSEP. It's a promotion. Good morning, Dustin.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Wanted to come to you. A committee of myself, Jennifer Hitch, and Rachel Thomas interviewed candidates for our medical officer position. This position is a fully CSEP funded position that helps train inventory equipment and work with our hospitals, St. Joseph Berea and Baptist Health Richmond, as well as works with EMS for the preparedness activities that we take on as part of the CSEP program. That committee recommended we hire Dakota Berry, who's currently an EOC tech with us now. So the promotion would be from EOC tech to medical officer with a pay of $19.74 an hour starting August the 14th.
Starting August 14th? August 21st?
Sorry, 21st.
So that is correct on my paper. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you talk about inventory and equipment,
Yes.
what are we talking about?
So the CSEP program provides respiratory protection devices, lighting, tent, decon equipment for the hospitals as part of the program. So we have to maintain all that in our inventory. Many of those items are over a threshold that the state and the CSEP program requires us to report. So that's part of those duties.
What about the shots? Is that part of it?
Yeah, that is, sorry, thank you, that's part of it too. We maintain a inventory of antidote for the nerve agent, and this position also maintains those. They typically run about a 3-year life cycle, so this individual would make sure we have our doses that we need, that old doses are being disposed of and new are being purchased.
And our ambulances and stuff like that, they actually carry that.
Yep, our
as well,
ambulances
right?
carry, all the EMS ambulances carry that. The hospitals are stocked with that, as well as our facility, and then EMS has quite a stockpile to distribute into their ambulances further as needed.
Right.
This is all done with CSEP money passed through. Is that
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
What's the shelf life on some of those?
Typically it's 3 years, but from time to time they do extend the life on those. Just, it depends. It's up to the manufacturer, of course, like anything in that industry. So we kind of are at their mercy.
I know it's been around for a while, that's the reason I asked.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
You bet.
Judge, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to hire Dakota Berry as a medical officer at $19.74 an hour beginning on 8/21/19.
Thank you. And this is a promotion, correct?
Yes.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Master Pipkin.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Master Barger.
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Dustin. Next is personnel, deputy jailers. I think at this time Rachel's gonna come up and present, and then, Jailer Steve Tussey will say a few things. Thanks, Rachel. So I'm gonna start off a little bit, just, Rachel. Guys, y'all were here at Fiscal Court a few weeks ago when, Jailer Tussey needed, 4 additional, deputies, as employees. You know, he'd send me an email, excuse me, he'd send me an email prior to that fiscal court meeting, and I think at that time we had approximately about 528 inmates under our care. I believe there were 75, if I remember right, 75 in other counties. We had 28 at that time on home incarceration, which I think we had 500 or 425 in our actual facility. And so with all that extra responsibility, he was requesting 4 individuals to be added to his shifts, which would make you 8 deputies.
Adding one per shift.
Adding 1 per shift, which would make him be able to go to 8 per shift. We talked a little bit about the potential of hiring temporary positions versus full-time positions. If we hire full-time positions with those 4, it costs the county about $166,000. If we hire temporaries over that full year, it would cost us about $100,000 a year extra. We've been looking into them, which is what Rachel is going to present on today. We've been looking at, we have a lot of turnover in the jail for whatever reason. Since January 1st through July 31st, we ran a report of how many individuals had been hired versus how many had already quit. And of the ones that we'd hired over that 7-month period, there was 50% of them had worked less than 3 months. And so there's a lot of energy that's taken in by enrolling these employees as county employees. There's a lot of money that goes to retirement and different things as part of the package that we have to give. And so we were looking at is if they're spending 3 months or less, could we potentially hire jail employees as automatic temporaries for 90 days, and then they would roll in, if they made it longer than the 90 days, they would roll into full-time employees with the benefits and health and retirement and all those things. And so investigating that and looking into that, Rachel's here just to sort of talk about what we can do, what we can't do, and see if we can come up with a decision today to try to meet the need of our Madison County Detention Center. So, thank you, Rachel.
Yes.
Glad you're here.
So for temporary positions, we can do it, but there are going to be very strict stipulations. So the Affordable Care Act prohibits some groups to have a waiting period longer than 90 days, which is why we absolutely, whenever we first have them in, by that 90-day mark, we have to offer them insurance at that point. And so keeping that timeline is absolutely imperative since that is federal law. Now, if we were to choose not to have a waiting period, if the employee works over 30 hours a week, we also have to offer them insurance. So even at that point, if they were to work underneath the 30 hours, then we wouldn't, but over 30 hours, we absolutely would. Regardless whether they're full-time or whether they're temporary, once they work 10 weeks, they're eligible for unemployment. That's something that we can't, that's unemployment law. So if we were to offer the probationary period, it would have to be implemented to all new hires as well. I've researched with a couple of different counties. They also do a Kentucky Retirement System's grace period. However, we would have to get prior approval for that on whether or not we could only get that grace period for jail employees or whether we would have to implement that across the board. Now, with that grace period, that would be if they were a new employee, then we could not have to pay in Kentucky Retirement until that 6-month mark. If they quit and then they came back, we would have to start that day 1. So I haven't been able to get confirmation on whether we could just do that for the jail or whether we would have to do that across all departments. So that's kind of still up in the air a little bit. But so with a temporary employee, we would definitely have to make sure not only to get them in an orientation, but also get them in prior to the 3-month period. Now, if we set the precedence of if they fulfill their 3-month period as a temporary employee, then we give them a full-time position. Every single time that the employee would fulfill their 3 months, you've set the precedence, hey, we're going to go ahead and hire them. Then if they were not a good employee, then you would have to get rid of them before that 3-month mark. Because otherwise you've set that precedence, you have to continue to do so, and they shouldn't have fulfilled their full time. So we definitely have to be extremely diligent with timelines and have plenty of communication in regards to temporary employees because there's multiple deadlines to keep up with for each person.
I think within a 3-month period, Rachel, we're going to find out whether they're willing to accept the responsibility of being a jailer. I mean, it's a big responsibility. It's a job not very many people are willing to do. And I think in 3 months period, we're going to find out whether it's a fit for them or they can't handle it and they need to move on somewhere else. So I think 90 days is a pretty good timeline to work with.
If you, could you explain a little bit more, Rachel, into detail about across those 90 days, what would be the responsibility of you, the county, or Jailer Tussey is the jailer, and his
So-
team of like what are those milestones across those 90 days of when, and what kind of paperwork you would have to do for that, for one employee?
So past those 90 days, we would be fined. So we would definitely be held responsible as the fiscal court that we have not complied with them. And then they would also come in and do an audit for every single employee as well to make sure that we have followed those guidelines. So that's just the tip of the iceberg at that point.
So retirement, there's different entities that you're having to deal with here, because
Correct.
Glenn is obviously dealing with retirement, and retirement's fine with the 90-day temp, right? And then, what about the health side? Do you not have to provide health for 90 days either, or do you have to provide it within 30 days?
So for the health insurance, if we were to have this waiting period, and that we've implemented that across the board, so if we have that 90-day waiting period, we have that in the admin code, we've got that in the job descriptions, and we make that well aware to the employees coming on board, then at that 90-day window, then they would have to enroll, and then at that 6 month, then they would also have to come in and fill out retirement paperwork as well for that.
Rachel, if I did an admin code for the jail, would that exempt the rest of the county?
Just
Would
as
you-
long
would
as
you-
ours
would
is
you
the
not have to
base.
comply throughout the county if I did an admin code for the jail?
That I'm not 100% on.
Okay, that's
I don't know.
details we can work on.
As the temps, I guess I'll direct the question to you. Do you intend to give them a 30-day evaluation? In other words, you hire somebody, they have to know what they're expected to do for the course of those 30 days. They've got to understand what it is for them to progress another 30 days, and then another. How are you gonna rate that? Do you intend to do 30-day reviews on that? so
That would
you
have to be
know-
something that we would discuss
All right, now we can
on how
ask
to
the
break it
jailer.
down.
Right now, I'm doing 3-month or 90-day reviews.
Hey, Steve, if you don't mind, would you
Yeah.
step up next to Rachel, so that way everybody can hear the mic?
Thanks. Tom, right now, I'm doing 90-day reviews. If it would, and then again, we've got details to work out. If it would help in the process, certainly we can do a 30-day review and give that employee feedback, so at least they know where they're going. They know what they need to correct before they get to the cutoff date.
That's right.
And that sounds reasonable.
That only helps the employee, but then
Sure.
it only helps you. If you need to
Helps me.
terminate
I
someone,
need
you
to
have
stop the
justification
turnover.
for that.
Yeah.
If you need to hire somebody, you also have justification for that based on what their performance has been. Same thing if you have to terminate somebody,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Rachel, are we gonna have trouble hiring people if we wait 90 days before we offer any kind of insurance benefits or whatever? Is that gonna limit the
I
people?
think it'd be hard to tell.
I don't
It's
think so,
hard
John.
getting everywhere.
I've talked to some of the prospective applicants already
Talk in the
about it.
microphone, tell Tom.
And, no, I don't think it's gonna reduce our applicant pool. No, the people I've talked to about it understand.
In a 4-month period, they had roughly about 80 applicants. So that's how, just in general, what our benefit package is right now, we had 80 people apply.
It's a huge turnover, and there's a lot of reasons for it. The pay grade for one, the job itself. People simply don't understand or know the job until they've done it for a while, and it just don't fit a lot of people.
Makes sense.
Well, it's not a job for everybody.
No, it's not, Larry. You know, it gives us a time to evaluate that person without making them a full-time employee, and not theoretically, it would save the county a lot of money.
I think if your turnover is 50% or more within 90 days, I mean, we need to start out in a trial and error method like that and train for, and
Yeah.
make sure they're willing to stay.
But there's
for 90
some little
days.
details that Rachel and I can work out, and whether I need to do an admin code or, that way maybe it wouldn't apply to the entire county. And, but we can work that out. That's not a big deal.
The process that we're talking about, though, is not uncommon in industry.
No.
You know, you hire somebody into a plant, they don't just go to a scale or start to work. They go through a process to determine whether or not they're gonna like the job, be hired or not.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that's a good thing, good way to look at it, Steve.
Okay, but again, ask the court to consider and vote on these positions.
So guys, with this, if we did do the temps, and we don't know obviously how much by doing this it would save overall throughout the whole jail. So when we were looking at the price, the 4 temporary positions full-time for a year was $100,000. And the full-time positions were $160. So we don't really have that extra money laying around. It would be in reserve. And so when we approve whatever we might approve today, we would be taking any additional costs that we possibly might have out of reserve. Now there is a chance if we can make all this work out like it's sort of being explained, where we're not paying into retirement and some of those early on health costs to the county, then we might not. It might be maybe just a wash. So, but I just want everything to be above board and brought up here today, so you know what you're voting on. So, but hearing what I've heard today, I'm gonna ask if anybody's interested in making a motion on allowing Steve Tussey and Rachel to work on these temporary positions, and allow him to go ahead and hire those temp positions.
I'd make that motion. Steve's probably got one of the toughest jobs in the county, no doubt about it. And he's already explained, you know, that the turnover is unbelievable, and besides that, it's costing us money when they don't stay. So it's something that's needed, and I think we need to do it.
It's really a good point, Roger, because we're actually paying now the overtime just to cover the shifts. So if I can fill those positions, then I reduce my overtime.
And remember too that these are, you know, as the jailers, as Steve being the elected jailer, these are his employees. I mean, he hires them and he fires them. We're appropriating the money today, is what we're appropriating, and also understanding the administrative role of our HR department over that operation as well. I mean, because that's part of making sure that we cross all our T's and we dot all our I's to make sure that we don't get into any kind of lawsuit over employment or anything like that. So.
But the public needs to know too that this is another one of the situations where the jail, for what's happened to jails and how full they are, that money that's going there could have been going to roads or to repair something else that we need the money for. By regulations, we got to take care of the jail.
Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
So I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion, guys? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Next, IT service contract renewal. Just a minute, the door's gonna open. There it is. Yeah. Hi, Chris.
Good morning.
How are you, buddy?
Doing well. We're here this morning seeking the approval of the court for Judge Taylor to sign the contract with SpinMap. SpinMap is our electronic purchase order and approval system. We've used it for about 3 years, I guess now, maybe 4?
4, yeah.
4 years. So we are technically out of contract with them, but this will extend it 1 more year.
So this is just a renewal then?
Yes, sir. Just renewal of maintenance.
And it looks like, is this price accurate? $7,512.91?
To the penny.
Yep.
So what it's been being, pretty much?
Yeah, during the contract, the price held, and then once the contract expired, they did take a small, but it was like $100.
I'll make a motion to allow Judge Taylor to re-sign the contract with SpinMap.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Well, would just like to state that, Judge, that I know how much that you have depended on this over the years, and being transparent and knowing what the exact dollar figures are. You see every single one of them. And that's a big job in itself, given everything else you've got to do. But this has been a really good program from what I've seen of it so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think this program is part of the reasons why that we've been able to hold our numbers and our budgets to where they're at, because there's accountability in this process. And so I'm tickled with it. It's been great. So I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Call the roll.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thanks, Chris. Next is EMA CSEP access control system bids. Chris and Dustin.
Now you get both of us. Aren't they lucky? Yeah.
For one month.
So we put out a bid for an access control replacement and expansion for EMA CSEP for the EOC facility. The current equipment that is in that building was at capacity the day it was installed. Those are things that were all controlled by the contractor that remodeled that building and did those things. So CSEP had the need to add additional doors and facilities to that system to control with the RFID tags. Essentially, the system has to be replaced in order to facilitate that. The current system does not meet the needs of Madison County in the future. It doesn't meet it now. So we went ahead and went out for a bid for a system. We got 2 bids, one from Advanced Digital Solutions and one from Forefront Solutions. It is our recommendation that we ask for permission from the court to negotiate with Advanced Digital Systems to see and make sure that the product that they are offering us is exactly what we need and what we intended it to be. We would like to award it and move on, but we just don't feel comfortable with some of the wording that is in there and making sure that the software that they are going to provide us is exactly what we need. So this is a little bit of just making sure we're taking the proper precautions. We're not just throwing money out there, that's not going to meet the needs. So we're just requesting permission at this point to negotiate with Advanced Digital Systems or Solutions, I can't remember which one it is, to make sure this is exactly what the county needs, and then we will bring it back in 2 weeks for your approval.
This is a fully funded CSEP project, just so everybody's aware. And the goal here is we have some areas of the EOC now that need to be enhanced. That's the reason we did this. But on top of that, EMA CSEP has other facilities that we need to gain access to or have access cards to. Our anticipation is if this goes how we want it to go or think it should go, we would want to add those other EMA CSEP facilities in the future with further funding from the program. So the current system we have now will not even allow us to add one more door, let alone other facilities. So that's the goal with this system.
Yes, we're talking about one system control, the EOC, the Joint Information System, all 9 radio tower sites, the storage facility out on Duncannon. That's the kind of system we're trying to purchase here, is one that is taking advantage of the data network that the county has in place with CSEP to use those. Currently, it's essentially an analog system. You put a box in the building, you connect the doors, and then you go to the next building, put a box and you connect the doors. There's no central management of that. So this is really expandability for them and for the future of Madison County to see where that system can do for the county as a whole.
Chris, is this something to benefit the county after CSEP is
Absolutely.
gone?
Yeah, we like to make purchases that make sense for things of that nature.
Definitely.
You better get it while you can.
Absolutely.
So do you think, Chris, are you talking about a CAN system or a custom system?
It's
Is this
CAN.
off the shelf? CAN?
It's CAN. The hardware that they're gonna use is called Mercury hardware, and it gets used with all kinds of different software. What we kinda had spec'd in the bid, or wanted in the bid, was a software solution that nobody bid. And kind of what we saw in the pricing of that before when we were investigating, it was much cheaper than what we see in this bid. So part of that negotiation is to go back to them and say, why did you choose this software? Do you have another option? It all does the same thing, it's just a different brand. It's no different than LG and Sanyo, right? And we all know the computers are all the same, right? Every computer is probably gonna have an Intel processor, it's just packaged different. So we wanna see that pricing and see if this cost that we're seeing is all in that software and that they'll do something else with us. So we just want permission to go speak to them, see what they're doing. The beauty of it is that everything that was installed in the EOC except for the brains are being reused. So all the door hardware and the readers are being reused. We're just basically replacing the brain of it, as Jonathan likes to say. We're gonna put a much smarter brain that's expandable, and hopefully in the future it'll be beneficial to the county as a whole.
Of the 2 bids, I think it's Advanced Digital Solutions. Are they the cheaper of the 2 bids?
So there were
already, or?
Yeah, they actually already were, and there were
Okay.
2 options placed into each bid. The option 1 was to do the JIC and the EOC. Advanced Digital Solutions was over $100,000, and that is more money than CSEP has allotted for this project. Option 2 was $61,000 for Advanced Digital just to do the EOC. Just to do the EOC on Forefront was $98,000. So they are actually the cheapest
They are
bid.
cheaper, okay.
But they are significantly higher than what we were kind of anticipating, even though that money's in the budget. Just because it's there, I don't want to spend it. I want to make sure we're spending it.
Right.
We want to make sure we're getting what will be expandable
Right.
in the future. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Sounds good.
Well, yeah. So you're gonna bring that back to us once you figure
We'll
out.
bring it
what
back in
to
2
do.
weeks
Okay.
once we're satisfied that it meets everything that we're all looking for.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think we were just looking for permission to negotiate.
Yep.
Yep.
So we need a vote to.
Right, you probably don't really have to, but probably it's like healthy too, just for the fact that we're giving them permission, we all agree to give them permission to negotiate this contract. I mean, that's why we have a wonderful team of IT people and directors to be able to do this stuff for us. So,
I'll make that motion.
so make a motion to allow Dustin and Chris to work with Advanced Digital Solutions to try to negotiate what the best product is for the county.
Perfect.
Second.
Not to exceed 61,305.62.
Do what?
Not to exceed
Yeah, I don't think we could we probably couldn't change the
Yeah.
dollar amount.
Dollar
What we would
amount.
be able to do is do more.
Right.
So the specification was to do that JIC. If we find out the cheaper software can do that, then we can go back to the JIC and say, all right, got enough money in that 61,000 to add at least the outside doors or 4 or 5 doors, but not do everything we wanted. So that's where the negotiation.
But I
comes
think
in.
part of it might be too, how much money you have
Yes.
allocated from
Yeah.
CSEP, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
And so if y'all negotiate,
we're
maybe,
sufficiently funded.
maybe if you negotiate a different software though, that it might lower the price enough where you could do the JIC though.
That's what we're
Right,
hoping.
yeah. Yeah,
So I don't know that we necessarily need to put a cap, are you all good with the cap of 61,000?
I'm
Because I
good
think
with
that
the
it
cap.
would.
I think because of the bid, they bid 61, I think we could not increase that from their standpoint. Could it be, and maybe council can help us on that, I don't want to.
Well, you can't
out of my
over
knowledge.
just, you probably couldn't go over that for just the EOC. But if you were able to negotiate down
It was
the,
only $4,000 more than this.
for the JIC, is all
So
I'm saying.
what we'll do is negotiate that 61,000 and close that project, and if there's additional funds in that budget, we'll just purchase whatever they need.
Okay, all right.
Because individually, they're not that expensive, it's the brain that's the
Yeah,
expensive part of it.
okay, good. Is everybody good?
Yeah.
All right,
Just
so
give
we have a motion,
permission.
second? Yep.
Uh,
Tom, you good?
Negotiate, so we're doing.
Just one more question.
Yeah, sure.
This is a system that might be similarly used out at Colorado. Is there any communications in between those as far as not having to recreate the wheel?
Yeah, so their system is completely different than ours. So, yes, I should say completely different, but similar in how they use it. But the manufacturers they use are different than what we have.
I was thinking more on the pointers of how they use it.
Oh,
Not
so we
necessarily
use
who
it
their
very
vendor
similar.
is, but-
Yeah, so very similar. I think they've expanded it into their other buildings, and that's what we're trying to do as well. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
just
you bet.
right now, there's a disparate system that controls the radio network towers, which is a huge security risk to this entire county to have those without someone of authority managing those. Right now, a vendor does that on our behalf, which is a terrible idea. Then you have keys, which are a terrible idea, because when those vendors let their employees go or subcontractors go, we can't really control keys. With the card access, we kill their card immediately and they're done. Same thing with employees. So it is expensive to use and it's expensive to have, but there's a level of security there that really provides us something that is beneficial.
It's good, very good, given the subject matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Anything else, guys? Seeing none at this time, Clerk Barger, please call the roll.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Master Bacon,
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Master Carter,
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Next is golf. It's awarding maintenance equipment bid at the golf course. Hi, Gary.
Morning. Before I get into the bids themselves, I just wanted to go over the process that we went through, because it was totally different than what we had to do for the carts that we just did. We actually started about 10 months ago, the entire process. And it was a different process with the carts. It was, hey, we need carts to put golf bags on, pretty simple. The approach that Tony and I and Chris took was not to be very specific on the equipment, but the areas that we had to service on the golf course. You know, we have to mow greens, we have to mow fairways and rough. So we wanted to make sure that the equipment that we wanted to bring in would handle all of that. through the process, we had demos of a lot of equipment to see if it could do the job that the vendors said it would. We got pricing along the way to see where we were. Just for example, this past fiscal year, we spent over $12,000 just in repairs. In fact, if I hear Tony say one more time, we need some hydraulic hoses, I'm gonna leave. I mean, just a continual process, the equipment very old. And part of the other thing that came into play, price increases normally come in September for this equipment. So when we started to put the bid together, I wanted to make sure also that it would meet our needs, but also wouldn't tie us into one vendor. It had to be generic, but kind of specific, so we had to do a lot of homework. So over those months, we dealt with 4 vendors. They were all fantastic to work with. They came up with pricing, and we had a rating system too. We wanted to know the reliability of the equipment, service, there are a few other things, the service, proximity of the service center, length of the warranty, and actually I put cost as the final criteria. So as we were staring at all of the quotes we had gotten to start with, I was kind of worried that I was going to have to come in here and say, whew, everything we saved on the carts, we're going to have to pay for the equipment, because it's been 6 years, and that equipment just keeps going up and up in price. So just before the bids went out, we had a few of the salesmen say, hey, am I in the ballpark for it? So I thought, okay, yes, you're all in the ballpark, so when those bids come out, you better come in strong. And before we got to that point, we were kind of leaning towards one of them, but we also knew that they were the most expensive. So then it came time to open the bids, and it kind of became a strange process at that point, because one of them didn't complete the bid they submitted, so we had to throw them out. So that made the process kind of strange. And to be honest, we didn't stare at the bids in detail until the following day. Tony came up to my office and we started to head through it. So with all that said, it turns out that one of them actually brought their price down to where they were the cheapest bid. And it just happened to work out that that's who we had preferred anyway. So with all that, we'd like to put forward that based on the equipment reputation, reliability, proximity of the service center, length of the warranty, which I got bumped from the standard 2 years up to 3 years. Century Equipment, they're a Toro dealer. And with the figure they came up with, we'll still, between the golf cart lease and the maintenance lease, be able to save the county about $2,400 per year.
Gary, could you explain the $1 buyout lease? What does that mean?
Okay, we did split out 4 pieces of equipment: sprayer, greens roller, a lift, and utility cart. We put those, decided to have them bid under a $1 buyout, so at the end of the lease, we will own that equipment. Those 4 items can last way beyond 6 years. So we figured it'd be a good investment to be able to buy those 4. So the next time a lease comes up, those items won't be in there.
Okay.
Gary, where's Century Equipment located?
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. So if you have maintenance or problem, they'll come down and pick up
Oh, yes.
equipment and take it back and
Or they'll work on it on
if
site.
they
Yes.
need to.
Probably most of those guys have,
Trucks and work on it.
yeah,
out
they
on
work
site.
while they're here, yeah.
Yes.
And we have our maintenance garage out there, so.
And that's all included in the bid here? that-
Yes.
the
Yeah.
maintenance?
Yeah, I'm sure there's some things that aren't warranted, I mean, over that period of time, I'm sure, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, well,
tires or
Yes, yeah.
Wear and tear.
wear and tear.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good, Gary.
So that, the total bid comes out to 95,1086. Currently, we're paying 9138. So it's a slight increase.
but we also had $12,000, you said,
In repairs.
in repairs.
Yes, yeah.
So you're not really gonna have that in repairs, so
No.
that'll come down a
Mhm.
bunch. All right, good work. Guys, if y'all affirm Gary's recommendation for Century Equipment, which is a Toro dealer, to allow us to lease, allow me to sign any kind of documentation associated with this agreement for a 72-month lease, a $1 buyout lease, and a 3-year warranty for a total of $95,1086. I need a motion and a second, please.
So move.
Second,
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I've got something I'd like to say.
Sure.
You know, a lot of times, public servants, and that's what we all are, and if you work for the county, you're a public servant. And a lot of times, public servants get a bad rap on things. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. Gary out the golf course is doing what public servants should do. He treats that job out there like that's his money, like it's coming out of his wallet, like he's the one paying for it, like he's the one making the bill. And that's the way that you should do a public servant job. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you, and the entire staff is that way too, Tony included.
Yeah, let's get to a vote, and then I'm gonna have him stand up and recognize him
All right.
too. So thanks, Tom, for those comments.
Yeah.
It's well spoken. Any other comments? All right, call the roll, please.
Master Buckin,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. So now I'm gonna have Tony Kidd just to recognize him
Head
today.
superintendent.
He's our superintendent in charge of all our grounds out the golf course. And I want to thank you just for the simple fact of how many comments, positive comments that I continue to get at our golf course. You know, and not to bring up a sore subject at all, but for many years there was a perception out there at the golf course. It was called the cattle field. And it was. I mean, and that was a true perception. And I'm very appreciative to be sitting here today that is no longer called that. That there are tons of comments, there's tons more play, and kudos to what you and the team put into keeping that place looking as good as it looks.
So, and along with that, it's not just our team, that come along with the support of the fiscal court as well. We can't do it without your own support and help. So, I appreciate it.
Thank you. We've come a long way out there, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it shows on the budget. Yeah. Thanks, appreciate it. All right, next. Next, we have second reading of ordinance 1911. This is Moberly Road, R7 to R1. Bert, as you come up, I'm gonna read the ordinance. An ordinance of the Madison County Fiscal Court, Kentucky, approving the zone change of property located on Moberly Road near the intersection of Old Kentucky Highway 52, Richmond, Kentucky, and authorizing the amendment of the official zoning map of Madison County, Kentucky. Whereas the hereinafter described land is located in Madison County, Kentucky, and whereas the Madison County Planning Commission held a public hearing on Tuesday, May the 21st, 2019, to consider a land use change request application from R7 Rural Agriculture to R1 Rural Single Family Residential. The applicant's request stated that their justification for proposed change being the existing zoning classification given to the property is inappropriate, and the proposed zoning classification is appropriate and in keeping with the comprehensive plan. Finding of facts were made by the commission that the property does lie within an area where existing and proposed infrastructure is located, including adequate roads, multiple ingress and egress options, traffic control, and water service. That the comprehensive plan encourages development in these types of locations. The Planning Commission further found that the comprehensive plan under goals and objectives, goal number 4, encourages new residential subdivisions to take place in areas of the county where this type of infrastructure is already in place and where plans for it are imminent, and therefore this change would be keeping with the comprehensive plan. And whereas the Madison County Planning Commission, upon hearing testimony, made a motion with unanimous consent to table the item, The item was then brought up under old business at the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission on Tuesday, June 18, 2019. No additional testimony was heard. A motion was made with unanimous consent to recommend to the Madison County Fiscal Court to approve the land use change request from R7 Rural Agriculture to R1 Rural Single Family Residential. Whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court has reviewed said findings and recommendation of the Madison County Planning Commission, and being otherwise sufficiently advised, and does hereby adopt the findings of fact made thereby. And we'll figure that out after we vote today. Bert, do you have anything to add?
No, unless y'all have some questions, if you went out and looked at it and.
Well, I would like to probably, before we start getting too far into any more detail, that we get a motion in a second. And then that'll open up discussion here, and I know there's people here that would probably like to speak as well, so. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of ordinance 1911 Moberly Road, zone change from R7 to R1?
But we're not gonna have comments first?
Well, you need to have a motion and a second to bring up comments. That's what sparks comments, because if you don't get a motion and a second, there's really nothing to discuss.
So moved.
So I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. So now it starts discussion. Bert? you
So
have
just, if y'all have any comments that you've been out there to look at it, or anything that we didn't go over last time that you have questions about?
Do we, excuse me just a second, Bert. We're gonna get to your public comments now.
Yeah, we'll start with the
Applicant.
applicant, and then we'll go into public comment. And that's what a second hearing is it's been advertised. And it allows anybody to come up to the microphone, state their name, their address, where they live, and to request to the fiscal court whatever their thoughts might be.
The only question I have for you, Bert, is in the comprehensive plan. Is it, I couldn't get the map to get a really good look at the map.
Okay.
But is this in the urban corridor?
It's not. It's
not in
rural.
It's in the rural corridor,
It's not in the rural corridor, it's adjacent to the rural corridor.
adjacent to the rural corridor.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next piece of property towards 52 is rural corridor. This property is rural.
Okay.
The piece of property adjacent to this is urban corridor.
It's rural corridor.
It's rural corridor.
Can you explain what that is, what rural
Well,
corridor
the
is?
urban corridor, if y'all have ever looked at a zoning map, it kind of follows I-75 up through the center of the county. That's where your infrastructure is, that's where the transportation, water, sewer, that's where utilities and services are located. That's where you want most of your growth to occur. In addition to the urban corridor, there's areas that are the rural corridor, 52 east, 52 west, major state highways, that kind of thing. Those fall in the rural corridor.
How can you say this is not an appropriate zoning if it's agriculture and it's in a rural corridor then?
That was the applicant's reason for the request, and the planning commission agreed with that in terms of the services either being available or imminent. They have got approval to attach to the sewer service that's out there. Even though it's not to the property yet, it's available to this piece of property if the zone change were to be approved.
And I think too, make sure that you don't get rural mixed with not like commerce or whatever, because that corridor actually allows for
Yes.
the commerce. I mean, gas stations that are there, farm store,
Right.
those types of things.
Right.
All right.
We're gonna hear public
Yeah,
comment and
so,
then have our
If
comments.
Valerie and her team would like to come up and speak, I think that would be appropriate. And I think too, any comments that the magistrates might have to them to ask
Okay.
questions, I think is appropriate as well, for y'all to make sure that y'all get a good understanding.
Good morning. I'm Valerie Himes. I'm an attorney here in Richmond at Luxon and Himes. My client is DS and JV Properties LLC and is requesting that the property here on Moberly be changed the zone from R7 to R1. We do take your concerns listed and mentioned in the first reading very seriously. We want to take today to thoroughly address those to your satisfaction. If you've already made up your mind coming into this meeting, I do request that you just keep an open mind, listen to what we have to say and present to you, ask whatever questions you feel like you need to ask, and let us address those for you. We feel as there's no legal or justifiable reason to deny this zone change. Jay Webb with Central Kentucky Land Surveying is here today, along with the property owner, and Jay Webb is specifically going to talk to you about drainage, traffic, and access. So if you have any questions regarding those particular matters, I would appreciate it if you would hold those for Jay. I feel like he can answer those to your satisfaction thoroughly. I do point out that many or most of your concerns, along with others, were raised, considered, and addressed by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve this zone change. That unanimous vote of the Planning Commission should be respected and not ignored. It is also worth pointing out, as read in the ordinance, that there was not a vote at the first meeting when the Planning Commission took nearly 2 hours to hear the testimony of residents of other subdivisions and others in the area, some of which spoke more than once during that meeting. It is likely that some of those opposing this zone change will say the same things to you here today. So instead, the Planning Commission tabled that matter. After that lengthy hearing, they took additional time to visit the property and consider all of the concerns that was brought up before that meeting. All of the concerns listed in your first meeting were addressed by the Planning Commission. After all of the time invested, the members of the Planning Commission could clearly see that this property is well suited for residential development and that there was no legal reason to deny that. This was not a rushed decision. Notice not even one of the commissioners voted no, not even one of them. We want to publicly thank the Planning Commission members for their thorough job they did. And I will tell you, after you put a whole lot of time and prepare for a hearing and then you don't get the vote, it is concerning and stressful. But looking back in retrospect, I do appreciate the extra time that the Planning Commission took to decide, because that just means that their decision was a sound one. They took time to think, it wasn't rushed into. Their unanimous decision was based upon the evidence presented, the comprehensive plan, and much time and contemplation. The Planning and Building Codes Office made sure that proper notice was given to all that were required to notice and that proper advertising was made. The Planning Commission found that the requested zone change is in compliance with the comprehensive plan and that the current zone change is inappropriate and the requested zone change to R1 is appropriate. Obviously, there are other residential developments in the immediate vicinity. One of the purposes of zoning is so that you don't create islands of zoning that don't fit in with the remaining property. So this zone change will fit in well with the remaining property. In addition to fitting in well with the surrounding area, for many reasons, this property is well suited for residential zone change. First, that residential zone change that's requested, it's in compliance with our comprehensive plan. Lots of studies and preparation go into our comprehensive plan, and on our county's website, the comprehensive plan is referred to the blueprint of our future. So it's a guide for the development of our county. In particular, the comprehensive plan on page 167 states, and I'll read from it, it says, with the City of Richmond's new sewage treatment plant and the potential for sewer expansion, a third area should be considered as a potential growth area extending out Irvin Road from Concord Road to Moberly. We've been told that the Madison County Sewer District, by the Madison County Sewer District, that this county recently upgraded the pump station that would service this area. Given that expenditure, that makes the statement in the comprehensive plan even stronger. Second, single housing is needed. Single family housing is needed in Madison County. I've been a real estate attorney in Madison County for over 20 years. Currently, realtors constantly and repeatedly tell me that there is a lack of inventory for single family housing in Madison County for homes that I feel like that would be suitable for this development. It is well known that we are in need of single-family housing in Madison County and for those involved in real estate transactions, and that includes new home buyers, families, bankers, realtors. I'm well aware that certain realtors have buyer waiting lists that they have created just waiting on houses to come available. And I constantly see realtors posting on social media looking for houses for waiting buyers. The comprehensive plan also specifically states that housing units will need to be built in the county to support the population growth. This is the area in which those houses should be built. Third, the infrastructure is already in place on this property with sewer connection nearby 100 to 300 feet away. Those speaking in opposition to this zone change at the Planning Commission meeting included residents of adjoining subdivisions and some associated with the Madison County Fairgrounds. Whenever there's a proposed zone change, drainage and traffic are usually always cited by the opposition. Those were likely mentioned during the zone changes for the surrounding properties for those residential developments in which some of those opposing this zone change reside. We feel as though those concerns are adequately addressed for this zone change and that this developer intends upon going above and beyond to address those. We are aware that some associated with the Madison County Fairgrounds oppose this zone change. Some of them may have even discussed their concerns with you. On behalf of the property owner, we want the best for this county, and we appreciate what the fairgrounds brings to our county. We also feel as though there are already residential zones in the immediate vicinity, so we are not asking for anything that isn't already there. We also feel as though a sense of cooperation and not opposition takes us further in our community. If residential zoning is already in place around the fairgrounds, and we are able to address any other remaining concerns, what justifiable reasons would there be to deny this zone change? At the Planning Commission hearing, some of the fairgrounds commenters mentioned protecting the agricultural aspect of this area. Take note that the fairgrounds itself is zoned RC6, which is public, semi-public use, not agricultural. Some uses mentioned for this type zone include schools, churches, charities, uses that by design can coexist with residential development. Again, the surrounding area consists of a large number of residential properties. Residential zoning fits very well in this area. Keeping the property as agricultural does not. Again, we do take your comments and concerns mentioned in the first reading seriously, and we want to address those. Jay Webb will speak to you about drainage, access, and traffic. One of the concerns raised by you during the first reading was drainage. Even though the drainage plan normally comes later in the development process and other approved residential developments do not provide such detailed drainage information until later in this process, in order to address your concerns, the property owner has already thoughtfully considered drainage and has gone ahead and purchased additional property to assist with that. Another of the concerns raised during the first meeting was traffic and access. It is important to note that this property is on Mobberly Road and is not on 52. There are multiple ways of ingress and egress. The Planning Commission took this under consideration and decided unanimously that that was not a concern. Keep in mind that the comprehensive plan also looks at traffic, and it identified this particular area as one that should be considered as growth for our county. Given the property's location, available infrastructure, the current zone is inappropriate and the requested zone change is appropriate. There are many reasons for you to approve this zone change. Your planning commission unanimously approved it after much thought and contemplation. Your comprehensive plan specifically identifies this property as suitable for development. Your approved expenditures have made the available infrastructure present and available. Your community is in need of housing. Keep in mind the fairgrounds is zoned RC6, not agricultural. Any argument that this subject property should remain agricultural only because of the fairgrounds is not a basis to deny this zone change. And as you will hear from Jay Webb, the layout, drainage, traffic, and other technical issues all will adequately support this zone change. So respectfully, we request that you vote for the zone change.
Thank you, Valerie. Guys, do y'all have any questions for Valerie?
I just got a couple of comments. She's pointing out that the extra housing is needed. We've got a development out here on 4 Mile with 300 houses plus under development right now. I mean, I can't see that we need 600 or 800 more homes in this area right at this time, maybe later. But I mean, I don't see the need for these homes right at this time. And as far as the development already out there, Dove Landing across the road on 52 there is having drainage problems right now with the retention pond that they built. It's overflooding it down to the doctor's office, possibly a lawsuit there. So I've got some concerns about extra development in that area right now. So I want to hear some more comments.
Okay, and to address your comment on housing too, you know, it's location, so just by there being one development, you know, buyers might prefer to have housing in another location. And then Jay is going to talk to you about drainage, and I feel like he'll thoroughly address all of your concerns on that.
And just to verify too, John, what subdivision are you talking about? 300 homes?
One that Grant and Worley developing on 4 Mile. It's in the city limits, I realize.
Oh, it's the city limit, okay.
But it is gonna have homes available in that area.
Yeah, yeah, okay, I didn't know, I thought you were talking about in the county. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay? You wanna come in?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jay Webb, Central Kentucky Land Survey. If it's okay, I have a little packet I'd like to pass out. Is that acceptable?
Yes, sir.
I think I have enough for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're plenty, Jay.
I have one extra. Anyone need one? Here to address some of the concerns brought up at the last meeting. If I could, we'll just kind of flip through this and then try to answer any questions, concerns you have at that point. 80.42 acres is what we're requesting to rezone, already been approved by the Planning Commission. Page 2 just shows our property in relation to surrounding development. You can see there are many houses adjacent to, across the road from, within a 2 to 3 mile radius, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of residential homes. Sanitary sewer is on the property. I can show you that on one of the future sheets. The following sheet shows the boundary of the farm that we're rezoning, 80.42 acres, with almost 3,000 feet of road frontage onto Moberly Road. Development no longer allows for strip development. It'll have to be controlled by streets into the development. No lots will directly access Moberly Road. Interior streets only, requirement by the Planning Commission, which I support, by the way. Shows all the adjacent owners, fairgrounds to the bottom, a few residential properties to the left, basically farm tracts to the bottom right.
Jay, where's the additional property that's been purchased?
The following sheet, shown as Tract A, 3.61 acres. That property is not included in the zone change. It was purchased after the farm. We not anticipate There will be no development on this 3.61 acre tract. It was bought, it was bought for sewer access. Sanitary sewer is on the 3.61 acres. There's a manhole with a 8-inch main on that property. Has been purchased by the developer. This 3.61 acres is a great place to help with your drainage issues. There's another sheet behind it if you'd like to flip to. This shows the drainage basin. One of the biggest concerns for drainage in the area, and it's legitimate, I've been out, I've seen it, is Estonia Estates. They have some issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you look at this red dashed area, that's 327 acres of land that flows into Estonia Estates. If you look at the blue portion, which is our farm, that crosses into the red, 32 acres of our farm. So 10%, our farm is contributing 10% of that water. But we have 3 acres to help them. If you look at the stream coming through the red area I have labeled as detention, that would make a great opportunity to help Estonia Estates. Our developer is willing to get in there, get dirty, and work an extra large retention area. I think 25% was mentioned in one place. We're going to do a 25% over retention for the Mobberley Road side of our farm. It directs water in 2 ways. Our farm has, you can see the 48.4 acres directing towards Mobberley Road, the 32 acres coming back towards Estonia. We will over retain by at least 25% the Mobberley Road area. The 3 acres could all be used for green space retention. If the county wants to get in and contribute anyway, be more than acceptable. Estonia has a real problem. Here's a chance to help them. I've spent days in Estonia Estates talking to the owners.
That was a development should never happen in that area right there.
It was a long time ago.
I understand before planning and zoning came about.
One thing that contributed to their problems is they're in an area, you have this 300 acres above them. Nothing in Mobberley is steep, right? It's all pretty flat, but the 300 acres does have some grade. Estonia, flat. So you get this water coming down and it just stops in Estonia. Their culverts are too small. They were put in before planning and zoning requirements. They have the open ditch, the main drain that's always ran through there. It's been filled with development, It's not really big enough to handle what's happening there. It's too late to do much in Estonia. That problem is coming from above. Luckily, we are the head of the watershed, the Muddy Creek watershed. This 300 acres, if you look at the property to the west, flows off to the Otter Creek watershed back towards Richmond. To the north, the east, and the south is all back into the Muddy Creek watershed, but we are at the very high point. So we have an opportunity to take care of Estonia Estates' problem. Water is hard to control. I can't guarantee anything, but you can sure make your best effort. Oversize a retention pond, one of the bigger ones in the county, I would imagine. Good spot for it. So I've said for years, the smaller retention ponds, they help adjacent owners if they're constructed right, maintained well. But in the big picture of the watersheds, these small retention ponds you see, they don't do a whole lot for the overall watershed, just the immediate neighbor. A pond of this size, I've always said, in areas that you don't have flooding, take the money spent on retention ponds. You don't really need it here. It's not going to save the world. Let's go downstream and fix a problem. Here's a perfect opportunity. So,
Master Combs has always brought up the question on whose responsibility it is to maintain those retention ponds once they're built. Usually they're built and the developer walks off and leaves them and they just grow up,
County.
not cleaned out.
yes, sir.
County takes it over, don't
That's very true.
Not typically.
I thought-
Well, we're not obligated to take it over.
No, most of the property lines in today's developments, whoever the property owners are of that area where it is, their property lines will go all the way into that retention or detention area.
That's typical. And the problem you have with that is the owners don't like them.
Yeah.
They're mosquitoes. They want to fill those. See all the people all the time. Can I fill this hole in? No, you can't. You shouldn't.
Right. Well, some of that too, though, is that a lot of times the designs of some of those detention ponds are so steep.
Oh yeah.
That you can't expect a
Just to get
property
your
owner
volume.
to maintain them.
Right.
And so if we design detention ponds where they're easier to accommodate
Absolutely.
a regular home lawnmower or what have you, then they're gonna be able to maintain.
This
a lot
development's gonna take it
better.
one step further. The retention pond, the entire 3.61 acres, the retention pond area for the Mobberly Road side is an existing pond that we anticipate to clean out and enlarge enormously. Try to put a fountain in, make it look good. It's gonna be at the entrance to the development. That's the low point of Mobberly Road. Both of those retention sites are included in the green space and park area, which we have to have, a significant amount for, property this size, have a lot of green spaces. So we got the entire 3.61 acres to do retention, green space, park area, walking trail, all that incorporated into one, also with the pond at Mobberly Road. Those areas will have access, maintenance. If the county needs to come in to do some maintenance, wants to come in and do some maintenance, it'll be on public property that's maintained, owned by the homeowners association for the project. So it won't be on private people's lots yelling at you because you got your truck in the yard to clean something out. There'll be plenty of access to it. Homeowners association plans to do the regular maintenance, upkeep of it. If the county chooses to participate in some of this, please do.
Now, are you all considering, tell me the difference in retention and detention ponds? One of them holds water all the time, the other one just in a flood event.
A retention pond is your typical farm pond. It retains water permanently. You can do storage on top of that, which is what we anticipate on the Mobberly Road side. It will be a wet pond with a fountain, but it will have room for storage on top to act as detention and bleed that back off to go back down to a normal pool.
So
Yes, sir.
where will the drainage on that side of Marbury Road, that detention pond, which direction will it drain?
It will flow to the east. It goes down Mobberly Road and crosses under. There, like I said, there's an existing pond. I don't know if you've been to the site. Yeah, when you go to when you come up Mobberly Road, the entrance gate's on the left. That pond just to the north. It's kind of grown up around it right now, a lot of trees and stuff. But that's where this entire 48 acres comes back to that area. So.
Where that would drain under the Marbury Road there, isn't there some low-lying houses in that area?
Across the road, there's
Across the road.
rose trays. Yeah, everything in that area is flat. So with the retention being oversized, mathematically, you're going to see a decrease in runoff. We've seen the wettest 2 years. We had, 2018 was literally the wettest year on record, correct? 2019 started out as strong or stronger. Luckily, we're drying up a little. So a lot of these flooding issues everyone's seeing right now, I've done this all my adult life. Drainage, traffic, I hear it all the time. People are telling me right now, I've never seen it flood like this. It must be all that development upstream. If you look at this, it's barely developed upstream. Estonia Estates has seen some of the worst problems they've had. Literally the biggest rains on record. So the ground's saturated, can't take any more water. So these retention ponds can only help. Oversize them. We're willing to oversize retention. It's granted, Mobberly is a poor drainage area. Subdivisions across the road seem to be functioning fine. Shady Oaks, Rose Trace, the yards are wet, but that farm was wet before it was developed. This project will have sanitary sewer available. That'll decrease some of that water, groundwater coming in, definitely clean it up. No septic systems. Every gallon of water you put down your drain goes into your septic system, evaporates out your yard. Those gallons of water won't contribute to that. They'll go into the sanitary sewer system that the fiscal court's put in place out there. So huge advantage.
What's your feelings on the texture of the land out there, Jay? We drove over it the other day. It's like driving over Washington. I mean, the crawfish holes, it's rough. I don't think anybody's want to run a lawnmower over it. Will that improve?
Oh, yes, sir. All the yards will be finished graded, most likely sodded, typical development.
So the crawfish not going to drill the holes back through the ground?
I can't guarantee that.
What type of houses are you putting on?
I don't think we have any deed restrictions prepared yet. I'm sure they'll be your typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes.
On quarter-acre lots?
We haven't got that far into it yet. I think it's available with that sewer available. We have to get to that planning stage. Until we get a zone change, it's hard to commit that many resources into a true development plan without the zone change.
I don't know that. You want me to vote on something today that you can change tomorrow, what you told me today, because you're not that far along in this.
Well, that plan has to be approved by the planning commission also. It has to be sure it meets all their requirements, setbacks, lot sizes, street grades, all of the things that are in place for any
So
development.
as I've told my judge and a lot of the others, we're voting on something that we really don't have no control over.
I don't know of any zone change that had a development plan for an entire subdivision laid out at the zone change stage. You know, I've done it all my adult life. I haven't done it that way. This is step one to a development. Is it zoned appropriately for development? Then how you develop comes in the next phase. All has to be approved by planning and zoning.
You know if all the planning and zoning members went out there and,
I don't know for sure if all of them went out. No, I had several say they did.
I mean.
In between the public hearing and after it was tabled when they came back, I know in that interim there were several of them went out and looked at it.
Driving down the road and getting over on the properties, you know, it's very different. I hope they took a chance to get over and walk the property. So
They were invited, whether they came or not, I can't speak.
And I believe some of them spent some time out there observing, you know, traffic flows and that kind of thing, as part of their investigation.
Thank you. Guys, y'all have any more questions for Jay? Seeing none, we'll open it up for other comment.
We do have a representative from the Home Builders Association. To speak.
Okay, sure. Can you please state your name?
I'm Susie Van
Who
Etten,
you here to represent?
the Madison County Home Builders Association.
Okay.
Okay, so we are an association of which the applicants are a member. It's not only builders who we hold to professional standards and a code of ethics, but also local business owners. And a lot of our business owners who are members are banks, realtors, insurance agents, and highly skilled craftspeople like carpenters, electricians, plumbers, painters, masons, and roofers. And so I'm here to just speak on behalf of them and just kind of underscore the importance of this kind of development to our local economy. And I pulled some numbers, and these numbers were a basis for a lot of other Kentucky counties' comprehensive plans. So I thought it was appropriate that I just share how this affects our whole community, and a lot of our members are these types of businesses. And so, you know, the 1 year economic benefits for development similar to this that is proposed would generate $19 million in goods and services locally. So those are the suppliers and the realtors and the bankers, but that's also the people that are working on site, spending money back into the community. And it's almost $4 million, $3.9 million in state and local taxes and fees. So for permits and all the things that they would need in order to build a development this size, and 270 jobs, and that's just in the first year. So then ongoing annual effects would be $3 million in goods and services to our local economy, and $1 million in state and local taxes and fees, because households on average pay 1.2% of their income back into the state and local governments. So I just wanted to underscore that these kinds of projects are really important to our local economy, and they are the backbone to our local community as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else at this time? Sure, Roseanne. Roseanne, please state your name.
Roseanne House. I live in Newby, Kentucky, but I am currently the president of the Fair Board. I have 4 concerns: noise, lights, dust, and smell. And those 4 things really concern everything that we do at the fairgrounds. If we have a subdivision backed up to our property and we have a cattle show over there, everybody's gonna be saying, well, I heard cattle all night. The lights were shining in my bedroom windows. They smell bad. We have a horse show. Our horse trailers, our hookups are back adjacent to this property. They're gonna be hearing the horses, they're gonna be smelling them. Same thing holds true if we have a truck pull, which we have 3 to 4 times a year. And I will say that all of these events add money to our economy, as well as what the lady was saying from the Homeowners Association. We have people come from out of state to participate in all of these activities. I'm also very concerned when you have a subdivision, everybody in the subdivision has 2 dogs. They run loose. You know, how are we gonna protect what's going on at the fairgrounds from all of this? And also, we have a considerable amount of equipment that we use, and that'd be another concern of ours. And the crawdads do not go away. I have mowed them, I've mowed the fairgrounds all year, and it is rough mowing out there. I'm telling you, they don't leave. These are just some of the concerns that we have, and I don't think anybody on our board objects to single resident housing. I think we need more housing. Evidently, this county is growing. Every time I pick up an article, it talks about Madison County being one of the fastest growing counties in the state. But we do have to take into consideration, the Extension Office uses our grounds. 4-H uses our grounds. I don't know of another facility in this county that can contribute to education and our extension service other than the fairgrounds. There may be one that I am not aware of, but we have sometimes 300-400 third and fourth graders out there for 2 or 3 day camps. We take them on hay rides, we teach them about eggs, we teach them about chickens, cattle, whatever. It all boils down to we need to be protected and be able to use our fairgrounds for what we have been using it for and to benefit the community. Got any questions? I'll try to answer them.
Thank you, Roseanne.
I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
The comprehensive plan states that part of the future development is a requirement that we should try to develop things along with the fairgrounds. I can look it up here and read it word for word.
Mhm.
Basically, that's the gist of it.
Gist of it, yes.
So my question is, why didn't you all buy this property?
We didn't know that property was for sale. Had we known, and I'm speaking strictly for myself, but I do think that the board would have considered purchasing the property. But we had no idea it was for sale until it was already sold. And that it would have been a great addition to our fairgrounds. We could have possibly done a lot more than what we're doing right now. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, guys? See none, thank you. Appreciate it. Any other public comment? Sure. Sir, can you come up? Hey, Jack, hold on a minute.
That's all right. Let Jack go first.
Oh, go ahead. I need to follow you anyway.
Sure. State your name, where you live.
I'm Ronnie Smith. I live at 2170 4 Mile Road, but I own property against the fairgrounds and against Mr. Van Winkle. So
thanks for being here. Go ahead.
I'm not opposed to the zone change. I'm like Roseanne. The fences are 50 years old, so yes, they do need new fences to separate the subdivision from our properties. I would like to have city sewer brought to my property, but that's not nothing to y'all decide. But the fence is the biggest issue, and sounds like you got the water control took care of. So, you know, I'm getting a lot of water from the fairgrounds, but they're on the uphill side of me. So basically, I do new construction in Lexington. That's my job. Fayette County's running out of lots, so that's why more people needs lots in Madison County. just all the builders is running out, so they're looking for places to go. So they're going to surrounding counties, Madison County, Scott County, Jessamine. They're spreading out. So I assume these lots is probably 100 lots in these 80 acres. So the tax revenue for Madison County will just, it'll go up 200 times, you know. Probably paying $2,000 a year property tax, it'll be $200,000. So that's where the money needs to come from to take care of these retention ponds. You're gaining so much money on property tax. And if you're getting that money, you may not raise my property taxes as much. You may keep other people's property taxes at a reasonable price, because my property taxes just goes up every year. So that's about all I got to say. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. I do want to make a statement about property taxes, just so that everybody has a good understanding of property taxes. The county fiscal court only gets a very small portion of those property taxes. So, for instance, on that $200,000 assessment that you're talking about, you in the county, you pay about $2,000 in property taxes, and the county would get approximately $164 of that. Okay, so $164 is not a whole lot to go around to take on extra responsibility of detention ponds and roadways and fire departments and a lot of the things that we are responsible to maintain, our jail, and just so you know.
Just out of curiosity, who gets all?
Well, there's 7 different taxing districts, I'll say, on your tax bill. School, the state, the county, the ambulance, the health department, the library, and extension. Those are the 7 different line items on your tax bill. And our tax rate is 8.2 cents. So of what you pay, again, if it's $1,000 check you're writing, we get $82.
But that's increasing the ambulance, that's increasing all of the fire department, it's increasing the school money.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely,
increasing
yeah,
everything.
yeah. Yeah, and I'm not, and you're exactly right on that. I'm just making sure that everybody understands that the county fiscal court is not getting that $2,000.
I understand.
That we're only getting $164 of that $2,000. And then all the other different taxing districts are getting their portion thereof. Yeah, so, thank you.
We wouldn't get enough property tax out of that subdivision and a lot of the others too, to even be able to blacktop the place one time. I mean, you know, you have to.
What is it, a mile on a 16, but that's on a 16-foot wide road, right? I think. Scott, Willie?
20 foot wide.
50,000 on what width?
20 foot.
20 foot, okay. 50,000 for a mile.
50,000 a mile.
Anybody else, any other public comment at this time? Sure. Please state your name.
Jack Van Winkle, I live in Richmond, Kentucky. I'm speaking on behalf of DS and JV Properties. My partner, Danny Settles, he's here with us today. And I just want to point out some issues with this development. You know, you all had asked for us to kind of put the cart before the horse, and you never had done that before, but we complied, had no problem with it. It's going to be done anyway. We didn't have any problem whatsoever. And we're talking about the flooding issue in the Estonia Estates. I purchased property to control that and to fix that problem or help fix it, and I didn't create it. It's already there. But I bought property to help control it, just to show good intentions on my behalf. I know the fire boards, they've been to every meeting, I know they politicked, and they've called everybody in the country to oppose us. No, I think the fairgrounds, it's a good thing. I'm not opposing the fairgrounds. I'm all for the truck pulls, the tractor pulls, the horse shows. I have nothing against it. And if they come and be a good neighbor to me, you know, we can put a barrier of trees up there. We can work together. Work with me, you know. Instead of just trying to oppose me, work with me. Let's all get on the same page. I mean, this is a good development. I've got sewer, I've got the water, I've got the road. I got everything intact that's needed for a development. And I have good intentions, you know, to make it work. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say.
Would you build a lot out there and live out there, Jack?
I sure
On
would,
that rough ground?
in a heartbeat. I plan on doing that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Mr. McCord, come on up. Why aren't you in your tie today?
I haven't got my Green Acres deal. Evan McCord,
Yeah.
I live out here just north side of town. I'm on the fair board. I'm here kind of to speak for the fair. I just wanted to give a little bit of brief history of the county fair. It used to be located up here where the bypass intersection of 52 and the Robert R. Martin bypass now. Of course, the road moved us, and that's when we had to move. We looked at several sites in the county, and actually chose that site out there where we are because of one of the reasons, way it laid, it was easy for us to provide a fairgrounds. Of course, the drainage was a problem. We knew that. But then in looking at other things, the drainage was not suitable for a lot of building. So we thought maybe we would be in a safe area and not have to be surrounded and moved out in a few years. I'm not against development and so forth. It's inevitable. You've got to have it. But we located out there thinking that that would be a good spot. That would not be a high development area. Estonia Estates was already there, and they had a tremendous problem at that time. And the county has done a great job in trying to relieve a bunch of that, and have. The county has worked with the fairgrounds for many years, helped us on different items as much as they could. I mean, we're a private entity. We do serve the people of this county. We provide services for them. We, entertainment, the fair, and the buildings are out there. We have to rent those buildings to maintain them. If development goes in, sure, we won't work with anybody that's back there. It's just our concerns is you get all these people in there, then, well, we don't like what's going on the fairground. Y'all are gonna have to move. We don't have the funds to move and relocate. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Evan. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Yes, sir. Please state your name and where you live.
Name is Steve Riley. Live 312 Peachtree Drive in Berea. And I'm the past owner of that property. Been in my family for 73 years. You all been talking about all the concerns about water out there. My main concern is the water that's underneath the ground. There's a large body of water underneath the ground there on that farm. It's been in, it run into my grandma's house. They bought it, and it was already running in my grandma's house, and that's been, I know, it's been over 73 years, and it's still running. Of course, the house ain't there, but the water's still running. And it was 99.9% pure, and I don't know how big a body of water this is, but it had to be a big one, because it's never went dry. I mean, with drought times, everything, there's still water there. And that's my main concern. And also, when I sold the property, I sold it, it was supposed to remain a farm, my understanding was, and I knew it wasn't suited for nothing else, and that's what I wanted it to stay, because it's been in my family for 73 years. I just wanted to maintain that, but I have no dog in the fight no more, whatever happens. But my main concern is about all the water. It's underneath the ground. You're talking about all the water on top of the ground, but you got water underneath the ground too, and it's got a slate rock top over top of it. You can go down in the ground about 3 foot, you'll hit soft slate. You go down about 6 foot. In places I went, you go down about 6 foot and you'll hit solid slate. It's somewhere in, underneath that slate rock there, that, spring, and, it's a big body of water. But that's all I've got to say, and that's my main concern about the whole thing. You know, you get in there digging and you break through that slate rock, I mean, you're gonna have water, I don't know, you know, I hate to see a piece of land ruined and nobody not be able to do anything with it. But that's my main concern right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Bobby Jones. My address is 1330 Marley Road. I'm one of the residents there on the road. It sees the traffic, the water daily. Besides the obvious issues of traffic safety, which we've thrown it out with no real details as to how traffic will be flown. The safety issues, the traffic, excuse me, traffic congestion. Our roads trace, the two subdivisions there already have 144 homes on approximately 200 acres. We've not been told how many homes will go into this development. I'm not sure how the Builders Association's got their figures without knowing some kind of numbers of homes, what the economic effect would be. So that's a concern there, the traffic congestion. I'm not sure how Attorney Himes got her information as to how everyone on the board felt after the first meeting, because we were not offered those same sentiments. We were told at the first meeting we were cut off. Basically, it was tabled. We will be addressed at the next meeting. The concerns were traffic, water runoff. Those will be addressed at the next meeting. Next meeting, I'm not sure if you are aware, first order of business was this development. Mr. Farmer called it to order, asked for any comment on the board. It was read, it meets the comprehensive plan. We had a very rehearsed first and second motion taken, unanimous decision, 5-0, and then a recess ask. All those that need to leave can leave. So I'm not sure how Attorney Himes got her information that we did not get. Those issues were not addressed to us in the planning and zoning. One thing that's not been brought up today is the Indian mounds that are located on the property. I've got a letter here from the University of Kentucky Archaeologist Department. I think, Mr. Reagan, you've seen it. There's also another email I have from the Historical Society, both referencing these Indian mounds on the property. If I could.
Sure.
We've heard from the Madison County Fair Board. We do not know how many homes will go in there. That's a big concern. I know of 4 people within the half mile. This development seems to be within a half mile on Moberly Road. 4 residents who are hit very hard anytime a heavy rain, it floods their property. 1 between me and my neighbor. Another couple down the road also hits them very hard. There's been a lot of talk of retention. Those are all fine and dandy, but no plans. Nobody has seen a plan. So those are concerns there. Not sure about proper notice. We were probably given notice. I've got a picture of the sign that was on the road at the time, if I may. Everyone that I seem to have spoken to during this period has said, maybe we did get a notice, but, whether residents know what R7 and R1 is, once they find out what the density may be, they are totally against it. So, I also feel that we probably, again, we've not seen plats, we've not seen number of homes, we've not seen traffic flow, we've not seen green space. Have we done due diligence on our developers? Those types of things. An issue I hate to bring up, but has not been brought up. part of our development crew here, it appears, has started 2 other developments within this county, both of which had to file bankruptcy on, and the county take over or someone else take over. So due diligence, bonding, what may need to be taken care of to protect this board and the citizens, I'm not sure has happened. Again, I don't know what we're looking at. If we do a same kind of ratio, 144 homes in the Shady Oaks area, all of those are minimum 1 acre lots, so 1.2, some up to 2. If we do that same ratio, we're only looking at about 58 homes on that development. If we go over to the Estonia, which has about 45 homes in a 15 to 20 acre development, we're looking at 180 homes. So are we gonna look at 180 homes plus the 140, 300 and some homes trying to get onto Marley Road within a half-mile stretch is a big concern. Also, we have a 24-unit mobile home park right off 52, right close to the fairgrounds as well. So the density is a big issue with the traffic. I know that Magistrate Tudor has spoken with many people in the Bobby area regarding traffic concerns there. One of our big concerns was a bottleneck at the Dollar General store on 52, which was supposed to have been an issue. It was going to be brought in the second meeting, which we never heard. So with many of those things said, the residents of Moberly Road and the subdivisions are against this development.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Appreciate it. All right. Anybody else?
Judge Shaler, could I say a few words?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just like to try to summarize some of the recent questions, concerns. I think one was brought up about the Indian Mound. If you look at the last sheet in the handout I gave you, we have located the Indian Mound. We look at it as unique to the property, incorporated into the green space, the park space. By no means are we going to disturb it. Kind of picture something like I'm going to call it the Mine Rich Indian Mound, Silver Creek, Barnes Mill area. Everyone familiar with that? Looks very nice. The mound on our property, if you didn't know it was a mound, looks like a pile of dirt right now. By no means disturb it, but let's clean it, let's preserve it, let's make it presentable.
You got one mark, there was mention of 2, Jay, you know, another one?
We have only heard of one. I know of, the first time I've heard 2 Indian mounds is today. There has been a possible Indian mound located across Highway 52 on the Dove's Landing project. That's been shown on their development plan. I'm not sure, I can't speak specifically to that, but we only know of 1 Indian mound. We've only been told of 1 Indian mound. No one's ever mentioned 2 until today. I haven't seen, we have contoured the entire property. There's nothing else out there that is even a mound possibility in my mind. A few of the other concerns, I think we've covered drainage pretty well. I think we beat that one up. Traffic. You have a 20-foot wide county road all the way to the property, half a mile of a stoplight, an 1/8 of a mile between the stoplight and us. Turn left on Old 52, right on Old 52, get out to Charlie Norris. I think we have very good access. I've been in this business all my life, all my adult life.
If you turn left on 52, where's that gonna take you, Jay?
Well, if you want to go to Irvin, you left on 52, back out to New 52.
Very few of those residents are gonna be working in Irvin. You go down the end of the road on 52, you're down there to a very dangerous intersection to try to get out on.
Yeah, the choice location is that stoplight. I've taken multiple classes over the years, continued education classes. Traffic studies are part of those. You want to be near a stoplight, but not immediately at it. Half a mile is a perfect scenario. Gives you time to disperse some traffic as it's controlled at the light. That's a perfect scenario in the classes I've attended. So we have the great road to the property, various routes in and out. With this subdivision, anytime if you do 50 lots plus, you will have turn lanes. I anticipate we'll have a couple of entrances on this project with all that road front, almost 3,000 feet of road frontage. We'll have 2 access points, I'm certain. Turn lanes will be provided on and off Marbley Road. That's an advantage if you look, compare it to Dove's Landing. If you try to turn out of Dove's Landing right on the main highway, turn left into Richmond. I work in there a lot. It's tough. There's quite a few accidents there. They are at that awkward spot from the stoplight. We are on a side road, half-mile from it. We get to have the control of the stoplight, not the disadvantage of it. It's a plus for this development. There's no doubt. Entrances, we have Shady Oaks right across the road. Be a perfect scenario to line an entrance up with that instead of staggering it. Let's line that thing up, make a good access point. That's near the retention pond that we want to be a focal point of our subdivision with fountains. It all should come together right in that area. Big portion of the traffic light issue, I've heard, traffic backing up. How much of that is Estill County traffic? Are we really going to stop development in Madison County so Estill County continue to grow and use those services? I would hate to lifelong Madison County, and I'd hate to shut us down because they're not going to. The roads were a concern, I think, at the last meeting. The ground is soft. I've looked at the roads in Rose Trace, Shady Oaks. I don't see any major repairs. I can't speak what's been done, what hasn't, but there's no huge, terrible areas, no significant patchwork I've seen. Those roads appear to be good, just driving through. They make the fabric now. If you have any soft areas, you can put the fabric down on top of your rock. Helps keep that moisture down, doesn't let it work up into the road. We see those areas. I think it would probably be required by the county to address that, put the fabric down. Let's do what we can for the roads. That's all controlled in the planning stage once we do this development, submit construction plans.
Are you saying, Mr. Webb, not
Yes,
to
sir.
interrupt you, are you saying that you're gonna put fabric down on the roads? Because that's not the county's place to.
Oh, absolutely. No,
You
we
take over what's left for the county.
right. The county just takes over after it's
So
constructed.
you're saying you're
Yes.
gonna put,
That's an upgrade to the installment. Yeah, it's not a requirement by the county for the entire road. But if you see problem areas, it's just good solid design to put that in. It's expensive, but it's not out of control for the benefit you get out of it. This is an area where areas of that development may need some of the fabric put down, be addressed at road construction time. Those inspections are done during construction by the county road department. Has to suit their standards. If we have problem areas, I've seen rock have to be installed extra deep. I've seen areas where you get the minimum and it's fine. So we'll address those points again during construction, during the planning stage. That's when most of those will come up. Again, the Indian Mound, like we consider it unique. It's shown on the property, on the south side of the property near the fairgrounds. As far as the fairgrounds goes, it's zoned RC6, semi-public, public use. Went out there a few weeks ago to the county fair, had a great time. Let's be honest, that's commercial use, essentially a commercial use of property. It's not agriculture. I'm all for the fairgrounds. I enjoy the truck pulls. I watched the little tractors while I was there, noisy, hey. This development is coming in behind that, after that. You can see we anticipate we're going to install some pine trees, a buffer through there, leave the existing tree line. No one is saying shut down the fairgrounds, move the fairgrounds. Development is coming near the fairgrounds. I think it's inevitable somewhere in that area, homes are going to be built. Fairgrounds constructed pretty close to the rear of their property. All their buildings, all their tracks, they had, 50, 60 acres-ish. They chose to go in the rear, near an adjacent property. We're not saying don't do it. We're just saying that's a commercial use. Typically in development, if you have a commercial use, that commercial use would buffer against the residential. Their light pollution, their noise pollution, things they've mentioned they have, it's there. But the advantage, it is there. If you buy a house against the fairgrounds, you have to see across that fence what you're buying next to. It's already there. No one's saying stop it. We're try to work with it, as Mr. Van Winkle said.
People don't do that, Jay. They'll go out on a little country road and put up a $400,000 house, and then they want a new road built all the way to it. You have to look at the situation before you buy in a certain area.
Right.
They don't always do that.
Again, the Indian Mound will be a green space area. So there's a section of this farm against the fairgrounds that can't be developed around the Indian Mound. And again, we're willing to do some screening there. I'm not saying it's ideal to have your home back up to the fairgrounds. I think I would be okay with it. Sit on the back porch and watch some free truck pulls, why not? But everyone won't agree. But we're not complaining about them, even though they are the more intense use. Yeah, you were there first, yeah. In summary, done this all my adult life. One of the most suitable properties for development I've worked on. What location could you get much better? I mean, look at the development around it. Good roads, you have sanitary sewer, you have an opportunity to take care of drainage. I just don't see, there's not that much excavation to be done. The property lays, it rolls just enough. Too flat is a problem. This one rolls just enough to control some water, get it into stormwater systems, get it to retention ponds. I think a denial on this zone change, other properties that come to you for development for a zone change, what are they possibly gonna have this property doesn't? How could you ever say yes again? Just my thoughts.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. At this time, I'm gonna close comments. Magistrates, y'all have any comments that y'all would like to make prior to a vote? I do want to make one statement, is that for the life, I'm assuming, of planning and zoning, this has been our process. Our process has been that you come and get a zone change. And there has to be findings of fact, and it has to follow the comprehensive plan. And then after that, you get a zone change, then you go in front of a site, you go with a site development plan to the planning commission. And a lot of the things that we talked about today are figured out at that moment, correct, Bert?
That's right.
And so we, as the fiscal court, I mean, we have obviously an obligation to follow the rules that have been set by us, or with some of us maybe before us. But those are the rules. Dove Landing went through the same process. Double D Meadows went through the same process. Shady Oaks went through the same process. I assume. I mean,
First Trace,
they were,
yeah, they were right on the
they
edge
were
of it.
right on the edge when planning and zoning started.
Yeah.
I mean, tons of subdivisions all over this county have gone through that same process.
I think a recurring theme here too has been, well, that was before planning and zoning, that was before planning and zoning. Estonia Estates, 2 small culverts. Haven't heard much except for your Dove Landing. They did have an issue with their detention out there. You've seen, if you've drove out there, you've seen that huge detention pond in front of that thing. Well, they had diverted water around that, trying to let the grass grow up. And once they corrected the problem, I don't think we've had any, and that's dried up a lot, but I don't think we've had any further issues out there. But my point is, things that have been done since we've had these rules in place are obviously in a lot better shape than things that were done prior to our regulation.
Yep. And a zone change that comes, I mean, you can do a zone change and nothing ever gets constructed on that facility for years, right? I mean, there was, prior to me being here, Roger, you might have been here back when, like, the Bennett farm was already rezoned, and you know, you've got neighborhood commercial, you've got residential, you got probably interstate commercial there as well, and it was all zoned, I mean, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago.
At least.
And so a lot of times, you know, again, we have to have finding of fact. And I just want to make sure that we know the rules that we follow as a court when we vote on this, to make sure that if we are going to change or go against possibly what the recommendation is from the planning commission, that we have to have our own finding of fact. You have to have finding of fact to approve it, and you have to have finding of fact to oppose it. And so I just want to make sure that if this happens today and it opposes it, that we have to come up with legit finding of fact that would accommodate that vote. So, saying that, we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion of the magistrates.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Does this board have any oversight if it goes back, if it gets approved, it goes back to planning and zoning? Or is it all in planning and zoning?
No, it's all in planning and zoning then.
We're done when you vote.
But we're a citizen just as everybody else, and we can be at that planning and zoning commission as your elected official to make sure that some of those concerns maybe get brought up. You know, so, and I don't think anybody, you know, I think all these points are valid. There's no question that a lot of the points that were brought up today by both sides are very valid. My concern is, from us sitting here in this seat, is that it is not the appropriate finding of fact, because all that can be remedied. I mean, there's curtain drains, there's foundation drains, there's with all this drainage, it could be put to a retention basin, and that really doesn't have any finding of fact to. And you know, and there's going to be smirks. I get it, but in Naples, Florida, I mean, there are ways, if a developer's willing to spend the money to dry the ground up, there's ways to do that. I mean, you have engineers and all that as approvals from those engineers to do the calculations and make sure that happens, right? Footings have to be suitable for compaction testing, and those things all go through that process. And so I just want to make sure that the court here, when we vote today, that, you know, if we're not going to approve, that we have finding of fact that would hold up.
And the market may correct a lot of those issues too. If they get out there and start digging, start building houses, and it's a swamp, well, nobody's gonna buy a house there. If they can't sell any houses, they're not gonna keep building houses there. So the market will work a lot of those problems out itself too.
That would leave property not.
He needs to be excused.
Yeah, but there's no more public comments this time. So any magistrates, anybody else, just take a vote, unless we have further comment by magistrates.
Not sure what these guys got to say.
Okay. Larry, Roger?
Larry, got anything?
No, there's just a lot of questions that's been brought up are still unanswered. We're gonna have 2 entrances, you're gonna have one. Lot size, is it gonna be a 1/3 acre, is it gonna be a 1/2 acre? There's just a lot of things that have not been answered. And, you know, I don't know that it's suitable or not, for a building. But I guess if you went in there and started digging and it wasn't, you just bit off a bullet you couldn't swallow. That's all comment I have.
Roger?
Well, I'm gonna let common sense take over and come up with all the finding facts that you got in the world. If you get up like I do at 6 o'clock in the morning and go out there to the red light, you're gonna find it a fact that you can get out in traffic, but you're gonna get back in line. Because there's a line of cars all the way to Richmond or all the way to Irving, according to which way you're needing to go, or morning or evening. It makes, you know, coming to work for the morning and that evening, it's the same way. It's a finding of fact, if you don't have rubber boots on and it's been raining, you can't walk that gravel, because you're gonna sink up. There's water there that's nowhere else in this county, I'm telling you. We can argue it all day. You're a perfectionist, you know your job. But I'm telling you, common sense takes over sometimes. Sometimes there's places you just don't need to build on. And if you're crazy enough to build on it, you're gonna lose. I've convinced myself that I'm not worried about 150 or 200 houses or whatever's gonna go there. I don't think it'll ever make it that far. I think it'll be a flop. But that's just my opinion. But it's a finding of fact because I've been there when the traffic's there. I don't know where they get their facts from, but it's crowded right now. And it's gonna be worse than that. Yeah, you can go the back roads and come out at Greens Crossing, or you can come out at Concord, but they still not a red light to get out. You're still gonna be sitting there watching that traffic go one way or the other. It backs up on the bypass, trying to get out Irving Road of the evening about 4:30 on to about 7:30 or 8 o'clock. You can't get on Irving Road by just turning right, you gotta get in line. But, I'm ready to make a vote. I don't know about the rest of them, but I'll let them speak first.
I just want to concur what Roger says, the traffic issue down to Lodge is a big concern of mine until the state widens that road all the way into Estill County, 4 lanes. It's gonna be an issue down there with that lot. I think we all know that. One of the other concerns is how this retention pond is gonna work, or how it's gonna operate. The one over Dove Landing is in there. It's designed supposedly right, but it's not a proven fact that it's working properly. If we put a larger 3 times size retention pond down there in front of Estonia Estates and it floods, I mean, we're talking about going, I drive through there, I get more calls from Estonia Estates than anywhere in the county. We get 1.5 to 2 inches of rain within an hour's time. They have water 2 feet deep going down the street down there, up in the edge of their homes. If we get any more water in that, they're gonna, just, at least 30 homes through there is gonna be destroyed. I just wanna prevent something from going farther, and if there's a good way to do it, and it's proven, I'd say yes, but until it's proven, I can't be for it. There's some other issues, the lights, and as far as the fairgrounds, that's probably one of my least concerns. There can be a buffer fence put up there, but the lay of the land, we drove over it 2 days ago, and we're in a pickup truck, and it's dry out there. There's not any wet spots right now, but it's like going over a washboard. These people are gonna buy these homes out there and try to mow their yards with a lawnmower, and dust is gonna fly, and they're gonna be very disappointed. This is, why did we buy a home in this? People don't look ahead when they purchase product, purchase property like that. You have to look and see what you're buying, but that area is just crawfishing, and I don't see any way to get rid of the crawfish out there. I've been there all my life.
Tom?
Well, I don't live obviously in that part of the county, so the traffic, I wasn't familiar with the traffic, and for that matter, I wasn't familiar with the property until yesterday. John and I drove out there, and we drove all over the property, and right now today, it is so dry that you can step on the grass in my front yard and break it, and yet there's places where it's moist over there that you can see where water virtually stands at any given time. So that's a concern. I would like to just echo what they've said about the fairgrounds. You know, the fairgrounds, and I know it's not the case, but I just want to say this. I want to reverse the situation. If this were the fairgrounds or an industry coming in to build up against a housing development, we'd run them through the ringer. That's not the case. But I just want to say the fairgrounds is not the issue for me. I want to read a couple of things. This is from the Madison County land use regulations, and it says this: residential land uses. Residential land use is the most extensive use of land in most urban areas, the second only to agriculture and incorporated area of Madison County. Included under this category are single-family residence and multifamily residence. The residence or home constitutes one of the most important parts of any community. The home place represents the most significant investment most people will make in their entire life, and also is the place where they are likely to spend most of their entire time. Accordingly, residential land should be given a great deal of special consideration in the overall development taking place at a given area. Uses that are detrimental to residential areas should be discouraged or shielded from residential areas in such a way to mitigate
any detrimental effects. It's one of the most important investments anybody makes, buying a house. Nobody's gonna argue that. And most people, although there's a lot going around, I'm in the process of selling my home. So everything that everyone has said here today has hit home to me. Because there is no place to go. I don't know what I'm gonna do if somebody comes in today and buys my house. I have no idea where I'm going. Judge says he's got a nice place, maybe I'll come and shackle with him.
Come on, as long as you're paying part of the electric bill.
There you go. I also wanted to see this. This was from the comprehensive plan on page 78, and this is uses of the land. It says there are a number of criteria that need to be considered in looking at how parcels of land should be used. A location, specific, relative in relationship to other parcels, dimensions, natural aspects, its physical composition, including soils, geology, mineral content, vegetation, water resources, landforms, and climate. Alterations, how the natural landscape has changed in terms of leveling, filling, draining, construction, etc. One of the last things on this is interrelationship with other sites. What kind of interaction takes place between these sites and other lands, both adjacent and distant? And how does the use of this site fit into that surrounding area? I rode around with John yesterday. I saw the Concord area. I saw, what was the other circle we went into across the street? Dove Landing. There's lots of issues with water that concern me. There's lots of issues with that land that concerns me. Is anyone familiar with the Oaks, property called the Oaks in Brea? The Oaks sits up on one of the top of the highest places over there in Brea. You literally drive up a hill to get to it, no matter how you come. At the same time, there's water all over the place over there. It's spring fed everywhere. Half those houses over there's got sump pumps underneath them. That concerns me, and that the property that we're talking about is already wet over there. And Mr. Riley, I appreciate you coming and addressing the court simply because you're familiar and have spent your life on the farm out there, and your family has spent their life. Who better knows what that property is like than Mr. Riley does? Which he says, of course, is wet. So that's all I have to say, Judge.
Thank you. All right. At this time, Clerk Barger, please call the roll.
Master Combs?
No.
Master Barger? My conscience says no. Master Tudor?
No.
Master Botkin?
No.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. So at this point, I need a motion to deny from somebody with finding a fact, and we need to make sure that we get this in the minutes.
To override the recommendation.
To override the recommendation from the planning commission. So whoever of the four knows, just make a motion, I guess, to deny with the finding of fact of whatever you think it might be. And then we'll need a second, and then we'll need another vote.
I make a motion to deny on the finding of fact by physically going to the area. The major traffic is already there, and it don't need to have any more development until the traffic situation is solved, as well as the water issue with standing water basically at all times on the property as being a finding of fact, because I did it myself. I find it a fact my own self.
Okay?
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second. So any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Barger? Voting yes for what I was talking. Yes. Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Botkin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
No. Thank you. Appreciate everybody being here. At this time, anybody that would like to leave, you can. Now, if you want to stay for the first reading of property maintenance code and road adoption list, you're more than welcome to.
What about if
Thanks, everybody, for being here.
you slow down before you take a vote? 'Cause let's go on, just don't get in big hurt.
Just vamp for about 5 minutes. You know what that means, vamp? Just kind of entertain us for about 5 minutes till Kenny gets back.
No, I don't need to entertain anybody. You know, I think it's a total shame, but I think it is. So, thanks, Bert. Are you gonna stay up here for the property maintenance code?
Yeah. You ready?
No, we'll wait for me. Till Kenny gets back. Well, actually, I'll go ahead, because I can read it, I guess. I can read the first part of it. So this is Madison County Fiscal Court. It's ordinance 1912. This is an ordinance relating to the property maintenance code within Madison County, Kentucky, repealing ordinance 0703. Whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court wants the property maintenance code to reflect the most current international property maintenance code standards. Whereas the unique balance between the development community and agriculture shall be respected and considered. Whereas there exists in areas of unincorporated areas of Madison County, Kentucky properties where the public health, safety, and welfare are comprised by property owners failing to properly maintain property. And whereas the need to ensure our ordinance are current and accurate. Now therefore be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of Madison County, Commonwealth of Kentucky as follows. And I'm really not gonna read all of these 2 pages. I figured you could give a summary maybe of what we're looking at here.
The property maintenance code that we're going by right now is the 2006 edition, 13 years old. We're just trying to upgrade that to the latest published version, which is the 2018 version. There's not a whole lot of changes between them. Cleans up a couple other areas that the existing ordinance didn't address, and it's just some housekeeping on getting the ordinance up to date.
I remember when this come up, there was a lot of heat over it.
Yeah, I think it took 2 or 3 times before it finally
It did,
passed.
and you know, everybody was hung up, well, somebody may say, well, you need to paint your house. You know, a little stuff like that, where we finally worked through it, but it took maybe 4 times.
And that's not the kind of people that this is geared towards. This is geared towards the habitual offenders that just refuse to mow their yard, refuse to keep their yards picked up, stuff that you all get phone calls about all the time. You know, the reason that we hired Lauren today, this is just a legal document that we'll work with, and the county attorney's office will work with when we try to get these properties cleaned up.
Well, she's got her hands full.
You all only hear about the horror stories, though. You don't hear about the good ones that we actually get something done on.
I can't tell everything I've been told.
Back's right there if you want to pat it.
I'll put some powder on it.
Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
I'd like to make a motion at this time that we table this, the first reading of this ordinance based on the fact that it references significantly through this document the International Property Maintenance Code of 2018. And I'd like to see that document before we vote on this.
You do realize this is a first reading, right? And that we will have a second reading, and that we would have 2 weeks in between the first reading and second reading for you to read that document.
Yes, but if I'd read that document and compared these sections that it's referencing to before we got here, I could ask Bert questions about it before we ever got to a second reading where I may or may not be able to do that.
So it just basically what it does is if you're good with the document that you're gonna read, then this holds this thing up for a whole nother
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah, that's right. And we,
There's been a motion.
yeah, there has been a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll see.
Call the roll, please.
Master Buchan,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Yes.
Master Berger,
Yes.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. All right,
That
Bert.
was the, let me
First
clarify
reading.
first. That was the table until the next meeting.
Next meeting.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Bert. So first reading of ordinance 1913, this is a road adoption list. This is us updating our road list in the county. And Willie, I don't think you need to really have to worry about saying anything, because I think this. So we're gonna update our list of our roads. We have a problem sometimes of finding information where the county ever even took the road in. We've gone back through tons of records. The road department's worked very closely with staff in trying to make us a new list. From this point forward, we have an updated county road list of what's in our county maintenance plan. And so we want to have a first reading of this ordinance so that we can have a new list.
I'd like to make a new motion, please. I'd like to also motion that we table the first reading of ordinance 1913, the road adoption list, based on the fact that I wasn't able to open this document and look at it before we got here. I want to be able to compare these roads for the same reason, to ask questions before we pass the first reading.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to table this till the next meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
I mean, we're no
Uh,
hurry
hey,
on this anyway.
Guys, I'm gonna make a statement right here, because this judge's report time now. But I put a lot of time and energy in preparing you guys for these meetings. And if we're gonna come in here, and I'm not gonna know anything about this till we get it on the agenda, to just table it, then you're all, it's wasting my time. And so, I could've gotten you this information. We could have, I'm
This
me.
information, Judge, was emailed to us on Friday. Or in some cases, it was emailed to us on Monday. We can't review a document on Monday based on the size of it.
Did I meet with you on Wednesday?
Yes, you did.
Did I meet with you on Wednesday?
With the wrong list.
Did I meet with you Wednesday? We emailed those lists out that day. That Alicia, the road department, Scott, Melissa, we resent that list back out. I actually wanted to make sure that Larry was prepared. Larry, I drove to your house, gave you the
Sure
list.
did.
So,
Even sitting here this morning now, and I've been over it several times. I've already found 3 mistakes. 2 of them was between me and Tom, and what's
And
this?
that's perfectly fine. That's what you can make changes between the first and second reading. So, and again, guys, it's not necessarily just my office, but it's our staff that we're tasking them with these tasks. You all are tasking with these tasks because you know what's going on, and then we get here to actually make it go, and we're holding it up.
Well, other than to put these 2 items on the agenda the next time, we're not holding up anything, because we now have this information.
Judge's report, 2019 Kentucky River Sweep will be Saturday, August 17th at Fort Boonesboro State Park, beginning at 9 a.m. Please contact Madison County Solid Waste for more information. That is a good event. Typically, ourselves and Clark County partner on this event. The judge executive and the mayor of Winchester typically come down, and we cook hamburgers and hot dogs for everybody after the event's over and after we clean up the banks of the river. And we all meet right there around the Boonesboro Fort State Park, not the Fort Park, but sort of back behind the swimming pool. There will be a Battle of Richmond Remembrance Blood Drive on Thursday, August the 22nd from 11 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. at the First Christian Church on West Main Street in Richmond. If you've been wanting to start your blood donating journey, this will be a perfect day to start. This year's Pops in the Park event will be Saturday, August the 24th at Whitehall State Shrine. This year's theme is an evening of Motown. Contact the Richmond Chamber of Commerce for more information and also about tickets. In light of Pops in the Park event, our county Whitehall Park will be closing at 12 noon on Saturday, August 24th for that event. So just remember that for all the people that would want to use our park. We do need that for overflow parking for that event. The park will reopen on Sunday at 8 a.m. August the 25th. Last but not least, this year's Battle of Richmond reenactment will be on Saturday and Sunday, August 24th and 25th at Richmond Battlefield Park on Battlefield Memorial Highway. Gates open at 10 a.m. The battles are fought at 2 p.m. and the gates close at 4. Comments from magistrates. Tom?
I have none today, sir.
John?
I'd just like to mention that the Richmond Community Job Fair is holding an open house Tuesday, August the 27th at the Madison County Library. If you're looking for a job, go by and see them, maybe find something that'll fit you. Also, the First Christian Church is holding a back-to-school bash on the 18th, which is Sunday, from 4 to 7. It's open for all young people. Go by there, have some backpacks, some school supplies they're handing out. It's games and fun for everybody getting prepared to go back to school. And I also got a number if anybody is in need of drug addiction help. 1-833-859-4357. It's a hotline. Call them. They'll try to get you into help today.
So say again, John.
1-833-859-4357 for drug addiction help. That's all I got, Judge.
Thank you. Roger?
I don't have anything.
Larry?
Yeah, a couple of things. Judge, Bart Bowman, which he used to work for us, but him and his daughter won first place, out of the fair on the light honey. So they'll be representing Madison County at the state fair, and I just wanna congratulate him and his 10-year-old daughter
Good.
for doing that. And the second thing is, I didn't know today was Bert's birthday, but today's my wife's birthday, so I wanna wish her a happy birthday, and I'll relay that on to you also. And I'm just glad to be here, Judge.
Thanks, Larry. Kenny, you got anything?
Yeah. I'm gonna do mine as from the audience. My name's Kenny Barger, and I live at 4012 Bronte Court. I'm over here as a citizen, not as a county clerk. What took place here today, we all stood up and pledged the flag. What took place here today infringed on another man's rights to buy a piece of property and do with it what he saw fit. I've been to 3 planning and zoning trainings over my continuing education in 9 years, and nothing that has to do with the zone has to do with water, crawdads, traffic, nothing. What happened here today was that the findings of fact that came out of this did nothing but made a solid case for that side to sue this court. If that's what you think you need to do to protect people from buying a home where there might be crawdads in the yard, you're also infringing on that man's rights. You cannot protect everybody from everything from this courtroom.
I
Thank you,
agree,
Ken.
I agree with you, and you got a right to your opinion, same as I got one from me.
I agree.
Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate that, man. That, I do appreciate that a lot.
But I'd like to ask you to get on the line.
Brooke? Sure. Comments from the audience? Sure.
My name is Ken Bellamy. I live at 104 Longview Drive. I also own a farm and have a house at 626 Maple Grove.
Say that again, please.
I also own a farm with a house on it at 626 Maple Grove Road.
Grove, okay.
Yeah. What I want to mention is the explosion, the gas line explosion that occurred not long ago, and the damage path associated with it, because through that farm on Maple Grove, there is a double transmission line, 36-inch natural gas, two 36-inch natural gas pipelines. And when I bought the farm and built the home, I made sure that the home was further away from the damage path of previous explosions, but I don't know whether it is on that one. That's really frightening, but that line runs into the county around Maple Grove, maybe over somewhere off of Poozy Ridge, and crosses all the way through Whitehall and then on down to Boonesboro. And I just wondered if somebody understands or knows, or somebody in the county monitors whether the pipelines are safe, or monitors. I know that as a county government, we can't do anything. It's federally regulated, but I'm just curious if you map that same damage path along the pipeline, how many houses might be in the path of an explosion should it occur. That Whitehall Park was closed a couple of years ago, and it was for maintenance on that pipeline. And I'm just curious whether that maintenance there might also need to be done elsewhere in the county, and I don't know what process is in place to try to address that.
Yeah, appreciate you being here today. I don't know all the answers to your question, but we can sure find a map working with Dustin, our emergency management director. I think we probably do have some things in place. I will say that like Whitehall Park,
right?
That work that was done on the park area there was because of the number of citizens that could be at the park now.
Right.
You know, they have to upgrade it, sort of like they did at the Traditions.
Okay.
You know, that same.
So they upgraded certain areas already?
They upgrade certain areas depending on how much population could be there at the moment, or, you know, over a time.
Right.
And I'm sure now with Boonesboro Elementary being there that they're glad that they upgraded where Traditions is, because now it's already been upgraded based off on the number of folks around. So if you would, maybe after the court meeting, get with Dustin, and maybe we'll leave, y'all can share contact info, and that we can maybe see what that means.
Okay.
And maybe in the next few courts, Dustin, maybe we can even present on that, because it is a good point. We have many pipelines that run across Madison County. It's just not that one.
Right.
And so it might be positive to the constituents and citizens of the county for them to be sort of know an update on that. So
Right.
I appreciate you bringing that up.
Hey, Judge, I got something I'd like to say. I know I've already spoke, but I do have something I'd like to say.
Mhm.
I don't take this job lightly. I personally went out to that property and went over that property, and that vote's said and done. It doesn't make any difference. But what I do take objection to, and the only reason I'm saying about this now is because I'm getting ahead of it, because I'm gonna hear this when I get back into my own district. I don't care where you're from. I don't care where you live. You come and you propose the same thing, I'll go look whether it's in my district, whether it's anybody else. I represent 20,000 people, and I'm gonna do what I feel is my job to do those 20,000 people the way they should be done. Thank you.
And Tom, I agree. I mean, we all really, in a sense, represent 91,000 people, But I want us to be consistent. I want us to go to the Dove Landing, and when we go and vote on that zone change, or Double D Meadows, when we go to vote on that zone change, or the bingo hall, or whatever property it is, when we're going to vote on a zone change, that we go and we do the same process. That we go and put our feet on that ground if that's what you want to do, but do it everywhere. Let's treat everybody the same. Let's not fall to potentially political pressure that's out there in that audience that wasn't there on Dove's Landing, wasn't there on Double D Meadows, and all that stuff passed.
Perhaps it should have been, given the shape of Dove Landing and that retaining pond.
Hey, man, that's
Just saying.
That's like putting tar paper on a roof, putting tar paper on a roof and expecting it not to leak. I mean, it's not done yet. I mean, just because you just heard Bert testify that, hey, they rerouted that water right now to try to get grass to grow. That's a smart thing to do, so it stops erosion. All I'm saying is, and that's why I get frustrated, is because I want us to treat everybody the same. When I ran for office, I ran to treat everybody the same, give equal opportunity. And I was noticing today about our hiring process. And what I was proud of was when you looked at all these hiring, when you looked at all these committees, Angel Powell, Glenna Baker, Bert Thomas, Melissa Settle, Leanne, Colleen, Dustin Heiser, Rachel Thomas, Jennifer Hitch. I mean, we've put processes in place that gives opportunity, and it's fair. That it can't be that we've set this up and it's cooked before we ever even start. They picked that person before. That was this one's brother or sister or aunt or uncle or roommate. We've set up processes to be fair, equal opportunity across the board, and we have not practiced that. And today, in my opinion, we showed that we don't practice what we preach.
Well, the good news is,
you may
hang on
say
just a
that.
second, Larry. The good news is that there's a process to appeal this.
Mm-hmm.
It's our vote. It's our position to vote how we choose to vote. That's our right to do that, and our representative of our folks. If they don't like the way our vote, there's a process to appeal that.
And he can sue the fiscal court.
So there's a point intact for them to handle that.
Yep, and he can sue the fiscal court.
Well, it won't be our first time we've been
It
sued.
might not
I'm
be.
sure it won't be the last.
It might not be, but I'm trying to protect the taxpayers' dollars.
And Judge, you say you want to treat everybody fair. I think everybody on this court wants to treat everybody fair. But let me say this. We don't all see the same way.
No, you're
So,
exactly
you
right.
know, you have to disagree sometimes.
Hey, I don't have a problem
If
with
this
the vote
bottle's
today.
half full, you'll say it's half full, I'll say it's half empty. Well,
But
that's
you know
not
what?
disagreeing.
But you know what? We both saw that bottle. Did you go to Dove's Landing and put your foot on that ground whenever we? You might have. Did everybody?
No, I did.
No? I mean,
I think every piece of property has to be.
and we also have a
just on its own
planning
merit.
commission. We have a planning commission that recommended it. all. I mean, nobody opposed it, had opportunity to look at it. I mean, that's why we have a planning commission. But anyway, I mean, we voted what we voted. My point there is that let's try to treat everybody the same. Let's, the next zone change that comes in, let's make sure that we make it a point that we go through and we treat it just like we treated all the other ones around there. That somebody can't come back on us as a court and say that it was favoritism or it was for whatever reason. That's all I'm saying. You know, I want us to be fair across the board as a court. Each one of us are our own elected officials, and we have the right to our vote. And that's what's great about our country. But I want to make sure that we're fair across the board and we do the same steps. And I think we've showed that in the first 4.5 years that we've been in office and the policies that we've put in place together. And that's all I'm trying to say. Next is I need a motion and a second to pay the claims and approve the transfers.
I'll make that motion. I like to end on a positive note.
Pay the bills. Yeah. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Mr. Bucket?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Let's see, next meeting is August 27, 2019. That'll be right here in Richmond. I need a motion and a second to adjourn.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Mr. Bucket?
Yes.
Mr. Combs? Mr. Berger?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?